friends, welcome. My name is Alexei Ognev, CEO of the DigiU ecosystem. Today, in this webinar, we'll talk about DigiU Alpha, the launch of the bridge round, its goals, objectives, and key milestones during the bridge round. Naturally, we'll also touch on the ecosystem, our plans, and the approach we're taking to fulfill our mission that every person, no matter where they are or who they are, should be the main beneficiary of all modern technologies. Let's get started. We'll begin with good news. Congratulations to the entire DigiU community, investors, partners, everyone who's been with us a long time and those following the ecosystem. Congratulations on the community's share increasing to 29% and on completing this important, significant stage, which marks a milestone in our relationship and in laying the company's foundation. In other words, shares have been allocated and privilege rights assigned to these shares. Overall, the company is moving according to plan. Now, the ownership structure is divided as follows. 51% is held by the team, which ensures a controlling stake, the company's manageability, decision-making speed, and everything related to that, as well as the inevitability of achieving our chosen course. 29% belongs to early investors and the early community to whom we've granted special rights. These include dividend, liquidation, anti-dilution, and voting rights. In other words, special rights that allow for a different way of exercising ownership. And 20% is the reserve fund, which gives us the opportunity for rapid development during this narrow window of opportunity now opening in the market. Obviously, in 2019, we encountered phenomenal acceleration in artificial intelligence and product implementation. This will only intensify. I think every week, or even more often, a new neural network will be released. The topic of LLM models and their specialized or broad applications, or various collaborative hybrids, will continue to grow. All of this contributes to market growth and the capitalization of companies in this space. Most importantly, it means full integration of these technologies into our lives. Naturally, we predicted this, but it's developing even more rapidly than expected. This is due to technological and scientific breakthroughs at OpenAI and other companies pushing the field forward. These generative models, LLM models, have seen significant development. We're now seeing the consequences. The market enthusiastically welcomes these companies. There are countless headlines about one neural network outperforming another, and the next being even better. So, this market factor opens a window of opportunity for us. Obviously, this means an influx of venture capital attention, and it's also a format where legal nuances of regulation, as well as political and ethical aspects of this AI entity, are stabilizing. In these sometimes divergent processes, there is an opportunity for a company like ours to find its place in very different roles, sometimes as a technology partner, sometimes as an industry standard. We'll try to enter this environment, sometimes as a human-faced AI, sometimes as a full-fledged technology partner in various areas, or as an infrastructure partner. All of this is in our plans. The key thing we need to keep in mind is that this window of opportunity is not endless. According to our optimistic estimates, it will last from 12 to a maximum of 24 months. Everything will depend on political, economic, and other factors. Naturally, we are factoring in extraordinary situations, like the pandemic once was. All of that is possible, but still, we are aiming for a very short time frame by venture market standards, just 24 months at most, maybe less. During this time, our company must transform, become the kind of company that can fully claim its place and be recognized in as many markets, regions, and in the AI community and those new entities bursting into our lives every day. These include AI agents, various LLM models, neural networks, generation systems of all kinds. If you're following this market, you see everything developing at maximum speed. And now, essentially, any school kid, student, or IT specialist can create a system that interacts with users or clients and, 9 times out of 10, answers questions correctly, just as the client needs, just as the company the system represents needs, and can charge money for that functionality. We're seeing a surge of various courses and offers on the market promising to automate everything so you won't have to work. Naturally, we look at this with an understanding of the market, because when you have 9 out of 10 correct answers, that still means a 10% margin of error. Can this be considered an acceptable figure for a product or a business? Of course not. The right approach is to aim for and create products that give the correct answer 999 times out of 1,000. And that is what can and will become the standard for AI-based products. And, in general, for any product that businesses, large enterprises, and even government agencies and corporations will be willing to pay a lot of money for and actually adopt. Because that level of accuracy is exactly what defines the standard. There's still a gap to reach that point, meaning there's more work to be done, both by us and by other companies in the market creating products. And that's exactly what this window of opportunity is about. Naturally, we have a number of significant advantages here. A well-formed team, MVPs of various products in different fields, plus working products, robust infrastructure, deep expertise in blockchain, and connections in different countries, mainly in BRICS countries, which are now focused on finding alternative solutions to ensure sovereignty, essentially national security, and the presence of their own AI systems. In general, I think we'll talk more about the window of opportunity. Overall, as we move to the next stage of our development, we clearly understand that it's strictly and briefly limited in time. But this is something I'll repeat many times, and something our community and everyone following the project needs to clearly understand and keep in mind. I'm saying this from the company's perspective, from the perspective of the company's leader, and you probably need to take this personally. So what does that mean? How can you apply this idea of a window of opportunity to yourself? Obviously, you should ask yourself, what's happening? Try to find the answer to that. And secondly, once you find those answers, what's happening and where things are headed, you might face a certain choice, first and foremost for yourself, for your close circle, for your business, for your job or your profession. You'll come up against a simple fork in the road. Option 1, you lose everything if you don't make it through this window of opportunity. Or you can make a quantum leap in your effectiveness, in your profession, your business, your vision of the relevance of the future. Whatever scale applies to you, you can decide for yourself. Obviously, those who follow the ecosystem already know and understand their scale, or are starting to realize and become aware of it. So my advice is to think about the fork in the road we're all at, and which, over the next 12 to 24 months, will continue to present itself to those who choose the opportunity for a quantum leap. We clearly see that the largest venture funds are investing in artificial intelligence. We see that Facebook is simply buying up specialists for any price, hundreds of millions of dollars for a single expert. There was news about Mark Zuckerberg doing this recently. All of this is happening for a reason. Huge amounts of money are being poured into the infrastructure that enables the creation of these fields, into the energy sector that will also support all of this. Companies and businesses are all switching to simplified models, and obviously, this will affect every one of you. I strongly recommend taking a close look and making that quantum leap. In this context, naturally, we're preparing some of our own educational programs. For us, it's a kind of social responsibility. Because what do we encounter within our team and in the market as a whole? It's exactly this fear. What's going to happen next? How do I avoid losing everything? How do I stay relevant? How do I make a quantum leap? Figure out who I am in all this? What should I do right now so that in a year or two I'll be a successful specialist, even in a completely new field? That's the really cool situation we're all facing right now. I like to use, in some of my reflections, the example of how at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, roughly 90% of the world's population was employed in agriculture simply because there were no tools for efficient fieldwork. And as soon as those tools started to be introduced, internal combustion engines appeared, then various tractors and other servicing equipment, then chemistry developed, fertilizers. Well, 90% of the people who worked in agriculture faced a problem. At first, there was the same fear. What are we going to do? This is all I know how to do. But you know yourself where technological progress led us to growth in every respect, to explosive growth in humanity, population medicine, and now, overall, we're at a similar stage, where in just a few years, first of all, there will be more robots than people on Earth. I'm talking about all robots. Plus, there will be about as many AI entities. The question is, what will be in their heads? What will guide them? What values will they promote? Who will own them? These are things we need to think about separately. And, essentially, what will we be doing? So, it's important to understand what strengths each of you has in this new world and start developing them now. Maybe I've strayed a bit from the topic of the webinar, but one way or another, this is what we're working on. And I think this year we'll present our own educational program. Naturally, it will be available to our audience, and we'll promote it in every way to fulfill our social responsibility, our social significance, to help people figure things out and find their key parameters. Whoever you are right now, you'll be able to find the right application for yourself, the right role in interacting with these entities, which are already doing a lot, letting us speak the same language, creating content, news, acting as economic agents. And this is only going to grow. In general, according to many experts in this field, in just a short time, these entities will start to receive some rights similar to human rights. That will completely change the social structure. All in all, this is a long topic that you could discuss at length, but it's probably not the main focus of today's webinar. I think we'll talk more about it, and do a deeper dive into this phenomenon we're experiencing, including so that each of us can better understand what the company is doing. Because what I just touched on is one of the recurring topics at our regular work meetings and planning sessions. That's where we discuss how to develop something, what we should do, and how it will affect everyone's life. So, we have very deep planning sessions, very deep conversations happening in our company, both on the technical side and the venture side. Of course, each of these divisions has a different focus. The technical side is about research and extracting knowledge from various fields. Right now, a lot of ethical questions are being worked through there because many decisions depend on them. The business side, naturally, is focused on generating profit and shaping our company according to the right venture model. And out of all this comes, in fact, the bridge round, this intermediate stage. The intermediate investment round is a classic venture term, the stage that starts now on July 15th. Today you're watching this webinar, and today the bridge round begins. I'll try to briefly explain it now. The main parameters that are needed and important right now at this meeting. What is a bridge round? It's a classic investment term that refers to an intermediate round that venture companies hold between the early stage, for example, the seed round, and before the A round, or before going public, the next stage of scaling the company. The bridge round is held to maintain the company's growth momentum when it realizes that the money raised in the seed round isn't enough for a sharp acceleration or to maintain the pace of development it's achieved. This is also related to various infrastructure technologies. So, there are a lot of parameters by which the pace is measured. The main and most obvious ones are that the market has changed a bit, sped up, and you need to catch up or act even faster to break away from what everyone else has gained access to. That's pretty much the situation we're in right now. So it makes sense to launch this bridge round, which is exactly what we're doing. And we're approaching it at a strong pace. This is no secret to anyone. With a solid, already established legal structure, a product line, a development concept, and products. In the last webinar, we broke down this formula for success. It's like a wheel of balance for the ecosystem, which includes the product, everything related to the concept of digital identity, digital immortality, everything that's now coming together under the Alpha entity. This wheel of balance includes infrastructure, everything necessary for successful development, data security, and many other parameters. The wheel also includes financial and legal security and proper structuring. The next parameter is a team of top-notch specialists, even more narrowly focused experts, and so on. There's a formula here too for how the team is assembled. Obviously, you need to address issues related to implementation, understanding the market, and the ability to generate profit from it. This is the classic formula for a successful tech company, which is what we're moving toward now. We realize that the current team needs a lot more resources and even more new specialists in various fields. And that's exactly why the bridge round is being launched. The venture side, in turn, is everything that allows us to supplement our portfolio with the necessary technologies, connections, and interactions with other companies. That's what the venture fund is all about. This is, in essence, the wheel of balance, the wheel of success, which we need to strengthen and expand during the bridge round. That's why, after completing the reorganization, the decision was made to accelerate the company's development. You could call this the transition to the next stage of development, the next stage of engagement, which begins right after we resolved all issues with early investors and completed the buyback. In the near future, buyback payments will begin, and we've increased the community's share, giving it special rights. And with this sense of completion, we're diving into a new stage of the company's development in many respects, which will last a maximum of 24 months, a very short, dynamic period by venture market standards. And during this period, our goal in the bridge round is to prepare the company for a Series A round or for going public. By going public, we mean either a public offering of securities or tokenization. In other words, either the classic method or what could be considered a tokenized approach. And, accordingly, preparation for the Series A round. For early stage investors, these are essentially the same milestone, which allows them to expect an exit at a completely different valuation. So, our task over these maximum 24 months is to get the company ready for these milestones. Series A or a public offering. Obviously, there are many areas in which the company will develop. It's important to understand that the bridge round will be divided into several stages, which will be measured by the results the company achieves in the various parameters I just described: the effectiveness of building the right team, the effectiveness of the legal and financial security model, the effectiveness of the venture fund, portfolio growth, growth of connections, generating profit from previous investments, infrastructure growth, and creating the right infrastructure for the company and its products to function. And of course, one of the key parameters, perhaps the most important, is the product itself. The company's ability to generate profit from its products and scale them across different markets, attracting a paying audience, an active user base, and an audience whose lives have been changed by the product. This is, in fact, the key parameter that determines the ecosystem's readiness, in this case, and for any company in general, for the next funding round. For the Series A round, a strategic investor might come in and, for example, buy out early or some early investors at a higher valuation, which could be a 10x multiple at this stage. And at this round, funds are raised to scale the already existing business model. That's why it's important to create and validate this business model. That's what we'll be focusing on in the coming months, developing products, the team, and everything I've mentioned. From the company's perspective, what amounts and what portions of the company are we talking about? We previously mentioned a reserve fund, which is 20%. In this case, that's 20 billion company shares. For the bridge round, we're allocating 5 to 10%. And for this portion of the company, we're raising between $25 and $50 million. These amounts are approximate for now. So, $25 million is the minimum we're aiming for, and $50 million is the maximum. Here, it's important to take a reasonable approach and probably aim for the best possible results, because in this market, speed and the right team make a huge difference. There are also emerging phenomena in this market that can significantly drive up salaries, and we're already seeing figures in the hundreds of millions of dollars, with services, infrastructure, and so on all growing. And when we conduct preliminary research, for example, on infrastructure, just initial studies, we see that there are specialized graphics cards that allow for parallel processing of different tasks. Their cost is tens of thousands of dollars, starting from $30,000 and up. And you might need several of them. Data centers there, too, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's why the company's target here is between $25 and $50 million, and everything will depend on the parameters, which we'll discuss in more detail later. This concerns where the company's profits will be directed. For example, profits could go toward dividends, which would symbolize and boost the influx of new co-owners. Or profits could be used for accelerated development. So here, we'll be balancing these options. I think it's safe to say now that we'll do everything possible to ensure that the next round of dividends, in a serious and substantial format, will be at the beginning of next year, based on the results of 2025. This year, for us, is a year of transformation. And clearly, this transformation should also be solidified at the co-owner level. We've increased our share, so now let's look at what dividends might look like. But to do that, we need to finish this year well, because right now we're preparing for the launch of the very first, most basic version of the product in the ecosystem, which begins to implement the concept of a digital personality copy. This is the DigiU Alpha product, and we'll talk about it in more detail later. In fact, we'll probably even present it at this meeting in the form it currently works. So, the bridge round, here are its main parameters. I've already mentioned its purpose. The amount of funds we're raising is between $25 and $50 million. In exchange, the company is allocating 5 to 10% of ownership from the reserve fund. The duration of the round is from 12 to 24 months, though it can be completed earlier if the goals are met. The goals are measured by several parameters: the team, the product, the number of users in the product, infrastructure, legal readiness, fund development, and various connections we establish. In other words, everything that contributes to the technological, product, and economic sovereignty of our company. All of this affects the duration of the bridge round. At each achieved development milestone, we'll decide whether to move forward and under what conditions. Obviously, from stage to stage, the investment attractiveness will gradually decrease. So, the earlier you join the company, the more advantageous your position. And here, my applause goes to all our early investors who saw this incredible opportunity. Accordingly, for everyone who will be joining us, this is an ideal moment to invest. The risks are minimal. The market is in its explosive growth phase, and the time frame in which you can expect a return or payback on your investment is minimized. That is, the maximum is 24 months until the next round, at which point you can exit if you wish. So, from stage to stage, the favorable conditions will decrease. Keep an eye on this if it's important to you. Naturally, the risks will also decrease. That's clear as well. The closer we get to the Series A round, the lower the risks, which are already minimal, but will be reduced even further. As I mentioned, this round starts today, and it begins with the most favorable terms. Break time equals 0.5s/. What else is important to note? At the very start, we're allocating about 10 intermediate stages within the bridge round, and all of them will be intrinsically tied to the company's significant achievements that I've already thoroughly discussed. For example, the first 100,000 users in DigiU Alpha, break time equals 0.5s/. Established infrastructure, signed agreements, obtaining certain crucial crypto licenses, or registering an additional trademark. In general, there are many diverse parameters. All of them will be directly linked to the precise amount of funds raised and the practical applicability of that specific amount. Here, the target allocation is also as reasonable and practical as possible. And the results are clearly trackable. Naturally, we'll continue to share regular updates about all of this, keep you fully informed, and so on. What do we see at this very moment? We clearly see that creating this comprehensive roadmap is a very serious and intricate process. It's important to lay out these milestones correctly, at least for this current year. And we're going to share them now. For this year, for next year, for these upcoming 12 months, we're going to lay it all out in detail, because that's the precise time frame where we can already look ahead with a reasonable probability that these significant events will occur. So, the roadmap is currently being meticulously put together. More precisely, it's being carefully calculated. Because the infrastructure block is truly huge, there are a lot of complex parameters, and while it's generally clear where to start, once you add legal questions, things become significantly less clear. Where exactly do we build these data centers? On what fundamental basis? In which specific jurisdiction? Where do we securely store everything? How do we fully comply with the regulatory standards of each country? And which one do we strategically start with? So, we're diligently researching these critical parameters. But it's already safe to confidently say that this is the final stage of developing this comprehensive roadmap. Accordingly, in September, we'll present a clear and detailed development plan that we'll diligently follow. Until then, our primary task is to maintain our current pace and even accelerate it further. So right now, the bridge round is starting with what you could call the initial stage, or even the pre-initial stage. Call it what you like, but the fundamental essence doesn't change. From July 15th to September 1st, this crucial stage will last, offering the most favorable terms for the audience that's thoughtfully thinking about their future, diligently building their investment portfolio, and perhaps has been closely watching our company for a while. Right now, the terms are the absolute best. The bonuses are the largest, up to a substantial 30% bonus on your share package, and the lowest price possible at this very moment. This is the only stage that is limited solely by time. Its purpose is to refine the roadmap and complete the tasks we've already planned, registering the company, obtaining the first permits and documents, and so on, as well as forming the roadmap across all parameters and launching DigiU Alpha. And today, we'll get to know it in just a few minutes. We'll touch on this topic. We also need to ensure its multi-platform capability, provide the first test capacities for its development, and, in fact, many other parameters attending various events, and ultimately testing monetization models for different products. So, as I said, our task is to start this round without losing momentum. That's why it kicks off on July 15th, and the super favorable terms will last for the first 2 weeks of July, with a maximum bonus of 30%. We're also adding the option to purchase a minimum package. What does this mean? There will be 100 packages of $100 each available with this bonus. Whoever manages to buy them first will get the simplest basic share package of the DigiU ecosystem with the highest possible bonus. As soon as these packages run out, the standard product matrix will apply, with a minimum entry of $250. Naturally, we'll keep the option to purchase packages in installments. Starting August 1st, the bonuses will decrease. So, we expect that the percentage will no longer be as high, since the 30% bonus will only last for the first 2 weeks of July. The next change in terms, as I mentioned, will be tied only to time, specifically the end of August. Then, we'll have a full launch of the fall season with an updated roadmap and functioning minimum products. I'm talking about DigiU Alpha, and there will be good news about other existing products as well. Obviously, there's a lot to say about validators. We see how quickly the number of validators is growing. The product is starting to click with people. Everyone is watching Solana, and overall, our validators are moving up in turn. We're delivering on everything. The team is working efficiently, and clients can see that. Some people are bringing in their friends. Some are buying for themselves. In general, we'll talk about validators separately. So, in any case, it all comes together. All this efficiently done work converges at a single point. We've already accomplished a lot together: investments, infrastructure, AVA, other venture funds, and the fund's portfolio. Obviously, in the venture market, it's enough to have 10% of your portfolio for one of the products to become a unicorn and cover all the investment stories. And we've already created a lot of them. Now we're entering the period when these products are starting to be monetized. That's the beauty of our current story. We've done so much, and now, just a little more, and we'll start reaping the rewards of our work. On top of that, we're adding this concept of digital identity, which is now ready, and the world is ready for its implementation. We're entering this space with expertise, connections, and a product distribution system. These are, as they say, the three key components of an effective team and a successful product. The first component is knowing the market's pain points. The second is being able to address and alleviate that pain. And the third is being able to deliver the solution to the consumer. All of this is the foundation of a successful startup, a successful project with minimal risks. In our case, all these parameters have come together at one point. And, as I said at the beginning, one of the most important parameters is those 999 correct answers out of 1,000. That's what we're aiming for now, and that's exactly why the bridge round is being launched. Let's talk about Alpha. Right now, you can clearly see a prominent QR code displayed on your screens, which you can conveniently use to join and access this innovative product. It's critically important to mention, this is the most basic, the very first foundational version that we're currently ready to officially release for public use. This is absolutely not a finished, fully polished product. It's rather a beta version, which is actively being tested and continuously developed. Our primary goal is to thoroughly finish it and rigorously test it under significant load over the remaining crucial weeks of July and August. So, you truly need to treat this evolving product with some understanding and leniency, and realistically expect it to evolve and improve further over time. We'll be packaging it in different, progressively enhanced versions. But that's not the main, central point. What you see now is a readily available version accessible in Telegram, where you can easily interact, ask pertinent questions, and write creative prompts. I think for many, the word prompt is no longer something scary or particularly unclear. You can have a natural conversation, ask something specific about yourself or about your daily tasks. You can even do a neural photo shoot with it, simply upload a few of your personal photos, create stunning images based on your detailed request, describe precisely how you want to look, and then see how incredibly it works. You can ask about various interesting predictions. We're actively adding different predictive systems, like comprehensive horoscopes, detailed lunar calendars, and daily horoscopes. You can also ask about current cryptocurrency rates, and perhaps even get some valuable advice on that complex topic already. Why did we specifically add this particular functionality? At its initial launch, it's a very simple, basic, yet incredibly interesting set of features that genuinely evoke positive emotions when you see how an image is created, when you can write, interact, or ask it to solve a complex task for you. We'll closely see how it performs under real-world load. The intelligent agents we've thoughtfully added to chats work very efficiently and effectively. Yes, sometimes they might provide information that isn't always perfectly accurate, but we openly warn about that potential. Still, they've really helped us significantly address audience interaction and engagement. After a while, all this valuable functionality will be seamlessly integrated into our customer support system. Later, it will prominently appear in the personal account, which will be regularly updated with current market parameters and the enhanced ability to interact directly with various products. So, once again, we'll clearly show the QR code on the screen, along with our initial, foundational image of this promising product. And that's probably how you should approach and treat it. Help it learn and grow. We'll keep updating it consistently. Obviously, it will eventually become multi-platform because it absolutely shouldn't be tied to just one single platform. In general, we all interact with many different platforms, and everywhere we truly need an ally, a helpful assistant, someone who can effectively solve the issues we need addressed. That's Alpha's core mission, to be a human-like artificial intelligence focused specifically on your unique needs in your particular region. Even now, we see several roles for this product. There's the personal Alpha, the basic version, which doesn't have a specific role or narrow specialization. That's a separate story. In other words, highly specialized LLM models or narrowly focused products are a different topic, and we'll talk about that, but I think those who are in the know understand what I mean. There are 4 roles at launch. The personal Alpha, then Alpha for investors. And here, it's not just for DigiU investors, but for anyone who wants the role of a super cool investment advisor, someone who can help form a portfolio, allocate assets correctly, or start building one with existing assets, providing clear investment advice. In the future, if we talk about localization, it will help prepare both financial and tax reports. All of this is part of the story, the financial profile. Next is Alpha for leaders, for active people who are pursuing business goals or product promotion goals. This will probably be our most experimental version, where we'll add the boldest ideas. Because entrepreneurs and natural leaders are people on the front lines. And that's where we obviously need the services that I personally use, or that members of our team use. For example, how to turn an idea you just came up with into a technical task. Make sure your whole team and the right specialists know about it, and at the right moment, get a report on whether it can be implemented or not. And then immediately make the next management decision. Here, the word leader isn't just about someone promoting a company, but about anyone with a leadership mindset, a pioneer, someone focused on business results. So the most powerful, experimental services will be in this version. There are a lot of ideas there. We'll put in what we use ourselves, and of course, we'll take the best practices from the market. And the 4th role we see is Alpha as a teacher, or you could say Alpha as a coach. This is specifically about education. I mentioned education and social responsibility a bit at the beginning. Obviously, that will be implemented here too, because it should give you a profession of the future, or at least try to create some certainty and provide quantum growth in those countries where it's most needed, and peace of mind where that's most needed. We have many such countries. The accessibility of education that we have, for example, in Russia, is not available everywhere. And we understand how to meet this need, and to do it not just as a commercial product, but as a system by integrating it into educational systems, for example, in Africa or elsewhere. That's why such negotiations are already underway, and we have something to show there. Obviously, Alpha will have a monetization model. This will include some kind of subscription and other parameters. All of this will be tested. Right now, it doesn't exist yet, but starting in September, you'll start to see this take shape, and the roles I mentioned will appear. For now, it's just a personal version that we need to stress test. So feel free to share, test it out, it's important to us. Everything you write there is confidential. But we do see the contribution you're making by getting involved with these ideas from the start, becoming co-owners of the company, participating in snapshot, testing products, using validators, deposits, and other company products. And all of this, of course, is rewarded. It's clear that this will be a multi-platform model, as I've also mentioned. We're starting with Telegram as the simplest and most adaptable social network. Next will be a personal account, a web version plus a separate version in the personal account. There will also be regional messengers like Zalo and Lime and mobile apps. In fact, we want to release a mobile app connected to Alpha this year, which will appear on the main app marketplaces. There are a lot of such parameters. So, this is about pace. We need to maintain the pace. We've picked up a really great momentum, and we're making the most of this window of opportunity, and we're doing it seriously. That's why the bridge round is the tool that will allow us to enter and secure our place. And, accordingly, for everyone who has joined us in our mission, it will allow you to realize this mission together with us. For those who came here for investment benefits and profit, it will allow you to get all of that, at least in the next stages. By the way, I haven't mentioned this yet. Where can you exit with a profit? That's in the next funding rounds, Series A round or a public round. Then there are buyback systems. Buyback rounds are something we're already doing in the company, with returns reaching up to 30%. Dividends, which we aim to pay out this year based on this year's results, plus various bonuses. In fact, if we recall the topic of dividends and bonuses, in almost 6 years, we've paid dividends 6 times, which is basically unheard of in the market. Second, there's the buyback with a 30% return. That's also a market anomaly, an event. And regarding bonuses, tokens, and project shares that have developed within the ecosystem, more than $2 million has been paid out. Plus dividends, so almost $2.3 million we've paid out. That's an extremely strong, solid indicator for us as a business model and for you as people who came here for investment appeal and to grow your portfolio. In addition to the mission, in addition to the contribution you're making to the development of the company and the whole world. Overall, I think it's worth going over the parameters of this initial bridge round window once again. For 2 weeks, from July 15th to July 31st inclusive, there are super conditions, meaning the minimum price plus the maximum bonus. You can see this on the screen right now. Starting August 1st, the terms will change, and they'll last until the end of August. After that, we'll move into the full-fledged initial stage of the bridge round. As I mentioned, there will be several of these stages, up to 10 in total. So, I've already told you everything. If you need to, watch something again. I really enjoyed our meeting today. I hope you did too. Join Alpha, use it, write to it, talk to it, train it, help it. Let's take another look at what it looks like, this little entity of artificial intelligence. It's happy, but that's how you should treat it for now. It will grow very quickly and surprise you. So, please, help it develop and help the ecosystem too. I'm truly glad to introduce you to it and to open a new stage in our company's development. Thank you for today's meeting. All the best.